What is the best way to sum up what One Macon is and what it aims to accomplish?
I haven't ever worked on an elevator sentence.
I think that One Macon is about alignment and cooperative coordination of a lot of efforts that are going on around our community to improve it, so that we don't expend energy duplicating things across the community and we don't miss things that aren't getting done.
And we can support each other
Absolutely.
at the same time.
So we cooperatively coordinate rather than
Get in
top-down
silos,
coordinate,
yeah.
and celebrate the successes of everybody.
I can agree with that, but I would also add that I think One Macon, just in the name, symbolizes so much that we're finally recognizing that we must work together to make this a better place for every constituency, every political group, every social group, every economic group. Working together, we can do so much more than working in silos. One Macon to me is busting down those silos that has existed and will keep us from being the best that we can be as a community.
Tell me how this initiative is designed to work to help the community at its basic.
It's going to bring together organizations that are all working in the three pillars, in schools, jobs, and places. And so it'll help the community by strengthening our school system, building or increasing the number of jobs, and making our community, all the neighborhoods where we live, more livable and stronger.
And those three pillars were developed out of research that shows those are what I would call the longest levers. Meaning if you're going to move something big, you need a lot of leverage. And those three were the three approaches we could take in Macon and Middle Georgia that we felt as a steering committee would do the most good in our community for the investment of time and effort.
How do you plan to engage the community? And as a part of this question, what would you need to see from the community to let you know that the community is fully engaged?
To me, that's an easy one. The initiative is solely depending on the community being engaged. This is not the tri-chairs nor the steering committee initiative. It is truly the community, One Macon, to begin to explore some of the strategies that's been identified, revise them as necessary, that take complete, authentically engaging every aspect of our community to fully make this work and for this to be a representative of what we think it can be as we look at moving this community forward. We can't do that without truly having the community engaged and actively working toward making this a successful initiative.
And I couldn't agree more, and I think we're seeing it. As we make presentations about One Macon to groups across the community, we're getting unanimous nodding of heads and consensus and buy-in. I mean, the school board the other day spontaneously agreeing to support the initiative and to partner with business groups to form a business education partnership. That's a huge endorsement, And I think it's reflective of the kind of acceptance we're getting everywhere we go. And as Clifford points out, that will build grassroots support for all of the partner organizations that are doing the good work out there.
And going forward, so that all citizens recognize and know all the things we have to celebrate and be proud of in Macon. And that's why when we say One Macon, that everyone that will be out in the community and they'll say, oh, I read about that in the paper, or that's great, I heard that, and they can tell their friends, this is going on, and these good things are happening. And for me, I think that'll be the anecdotal way of saying that things are changing, is when we're in places and people are positive and talking about all the great things that are happening.
Right.
And so that would let you know that the community is engaged, is that the part?
Yes.
Okay.
But at the same time, you bring up the point of metrics, and as a part of this, we're developing metrics for every one of the strategies. And since engaged residents and collaborative residents is a underpinning of our strategies, one of the things we'll be looking at is how do we measure engagement, and are we moving the needle in engagement across the community?
Market Street's Services Survey endeavor found that issues of race, leadership, and trust are central to most issues, including economic development. How does this plan, overcome those issues or deal with those issues?
I think we've already begun to. If you just look at the 3 tri-chairs here that has agreed to sit down and honestly try to understand each other's perspective. And believe me, we're sitting here mighty cordial and very polite right now, but we've had just differences on, some of the areas of that's sort of tough to discuss, but we have to have honest, open dialogue to make this work. And for this to be really be true to what we're trying to achieve here. Some of these issues aren't simple. They're not easy. They're generational. And the only way, I think, that we can begin to break down some of the barriers of trust is we begin to give each other opportunities to understand exactly the various aspects of Robbo's position on this matter or that. But it truly begins with an honest desire to move this community forward, recognizing that these are key issues, and they're not easy issues. They're age-old issues. But it begins with the first step, I believe, and I think we've already made that.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, Clifford's absolutely right. I mean, the idea is, as we work together, as we collaborate across the community, and we have some wins, nothing builds trust like working together and having a win. And I think he's right. The tri-chairs are sort of modeling that from the very beginning for everybody. Our steering committee caught on to that and modeled it very well. We had good, frank, honest discussions, but respectful. And I think at the end of the day, when we rolled out the plan we have, everybody was real happy with it and felt like we had a win. And that builds trust, and that breaks down the barriers between us. And if we can do that, we can continue to model that in a way that the rest of the community picks up on it and continues to work together to go forward. It's a whole lot easier to trust everybody when you work with them and you won together on a team.
Well said. It's well said. I can agree more.
There are various components to this initiative. It's overwhelming. And of course, as we said, a large part of that aims to lift up the community. How do you take one initiative and coordinate all the moving parts to actually see results? Obviously, there are a lot of moving parts to this.
That's a really good question. And it's one that we're still working on, just to be very honest with you. But when you think about it, we intend to use everything that are available, best practices, and understanding how other communities have been successful in starting this type of an initiative and staying with it. But I think the most important thing is we have the resolve to stay with this. All of that will, in time, we will find the answers. Some nights I go to sleep and I'm just baffled, and the next morning I wake up and it be crystal clear. And I truly believe if we trust one another and pull from each other's strengths, I think those answers begin to become very crystallized as we move forward.
But each strategy also has a lead partner and all the supporting partners, and so they're already meeting. And if in each of the strategies has a timeline on it, and so I think as far as moving the needle, that if you look at if the groups are coming together, which they are already, and they're already working together, then that's how you do it. It's that you take the bits and pieces,
Mm-hmm.
you accomplish them, you set your goal, you accomplish them, and then you're moving the needle.
And as you pointed out, it's a lot of moving parts, but we have a lot of moving partners. And so you can cover a lot of ground when you've got 50, 70 organizations out in the community, out in the neighborhoods, out in the various facets of Middle Georgia, working to make a difference in their area of expertise. And so
Harnessing all of that energy,
harnessing all that, and as I call
communicating.
communicating, and
Yeah.
as I call it, cooperative coordination. So as we find out what each other are doing, we're better able to support each
Right.
other and
Right.
fill the gaps and make that seamless.
How is One Macon different from previous community initiatives we've seen before?
Name one.
Give me an example.
Some have referred to the Fanta study that was done
Okay.
12
Okay.
years ago.
That's easy.
Okay.
The Fanta study was a technical study to determine what industry segments would do well in Macon and Middle Georgia's environment, given our labor shed, given our location, given our water resources and other resources that we had. Period, end of sentence, stop. And that's all it did. One Macon does that, but it looks at the whole community and recognizes that everything is economic development. Improving our downtown is economic development. Improving our neighborhoods are economic development. Improving our school system is economic development. Raising our educational attainment level is economic development. All of that impacts the economy, not just attracting another company in a target industry segment to Macon with 200 jobs. While that's really important, and you don't stop doing it, it doesn't
It's
stop
not
at
the
that.
only thing.
And I'll just add more to, I think, the implied question, what's implied in that question. Why should the community believe that this would be any different than many other
Exactly.
initiatives that started?
That's-
And I'll
the question.
Yeah,
I'll go
Clifford.
directly to that. This community has undergone radical change over the last couple of years. And we think the time is right for us to come together as a community. The name says it all once again, One Macon. If we demonstrate the resolve necessary to know that, as Robert Ricketts said, we in the same boat, and we cannot feel comfortable if one end or the other have a hole in it. We got to fix the hole in the boat so that we can all sail along and be prepared for the high tide that will come.
Well said.
I think he's been hanging around Robert.
There's your editorial.
Okay, This plan in part calls for partnerships to achieve specific goals. Have you already lined up all the necessary support from various groups? And is there any financial commitment from any of these groups involved to see that the goals are achieved? It's a bunch of questions.
The answer is yes. We have our partners. They've been at the table, and we've gone out and identified those that weren't on the initial steering committee that were identified as partners for the various strategies. So yes, everybody's on board there. The financial side of it is a moving target. So,
And we recognize that we're not a centralized funding source. So One Macon isn't going to go raise all the money and give it to the partners. The partners already have plans in place, already have fundraising capabilities in place, and are already doing that work and funding it. We will probably raise some money to help administer and coordinate, and we will probably raise some money to fill gaps that the One Macon group may need to do on its own. But the idea is to leverage the capacity of all of the people who are already out there working on this kind of stuff and not duplicate it. We're not reinventing an after-school program. We're supporting, encouraging, and helping after-school programs to be successful and coordinate. So, at the end of the day, this is likely to be a huge number if you quantify the amount of effort that goes in. The amount that
all the
One
partners
Macon,
are spending.
yeah, if you take all of the money that's being spent by the city, the county, the nonprofits, the school board, the business community, the chamber, it'll be a huge amount of money. But that's not to say One Macon will go raise that amount of money.
And those entities you just listed, those are the partners you're talking about?
There's some of them, yeah.
Okay.
There are about 100.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they represented by the committee members?
The committee is representative of them.
Yes.
For example, just taking one segment and say development of downtown place. You have the Urban Development Authority, you have Newtown, you have the College Hill Corridor, you have the city, county, you have College Hill, you have Historic Macon. So all of those people that are playing the trail, the Oak Boggy Monument, all of those people that are playing in downtown redevelopment are already at the table in one form or another. And an example of success, early success in my opinion, for One Macon is as the Urban Development Authority was thinking about doing another plan for downtown, they paused a little bit so that they could align with what One Macon's strategies were. So they got the benefit of all of the research we did on the demographics of Macon, on the directions of Macon's demographics, and got to work through where Newtown is and the College Hill Alliance and the College Hill Corridor people, so that as they're doing their plan, it is aligning with all of those other partners rather than being independent of them. That's a huge win for the
Yes.
Urban Development Authority to do that in concert with everyone and coordinate with everybody's existing work rather than doing it independently is a huge win.
And we just think that's a smart approach when we don't know what the number is. What we're charged, the task force, at doing is coming and examining and assessing where we're strong, where we're weak, how we can leverage existing resources to accomplish some of the strategies in the matrix and the grids that are in that plan. But at the end of the day, this community is committing to doing whatever it takes to accomplish what collectively our strategies are that we feel will move this community in the direction we're trying to go.
You mentioned task force. Is that this?
Well, I think we're interchangeably.
Is that
implementation? Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Sorry.
I thought
Yeah.
so.
And within the implementation committee, we have some task forces. One is working on marketing plan, one is working on funding plan. So, we kind of use that interchangeably to mean
I just
Yeah.
subsets as we need
Clarify.
to.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
wanted to make sure I understood. This may be a little bit overlap. I understand you have concrete timelines in the plan and action plans connected with One Macon. How quickly do you expect to start seeing results? Was the Urban
Yes.
Development Authority one of those?
I mean, that's a soft result.
Yeah.
We also have some hard results. One of the one of the recommendations was to form a logistics council, and that council has been organized and will be meeting soon. So not just soft results like coordination of new plans, but hard results like, the various tactical recommendations in there are being done.
And we also recognize that some of the low-hanging fruit may be beneficial to keep people encouraged and motivated, but this is something that we recognize. The true dividends will be paid through the BEP initiatives, where the business community is partnering with the education community to produce a very capable and competent workforce that we will be able to go out and attract the type of industry into this community that could provide the type of head of household jobs that all of us want to see happen. That's not something that we're going to fix overnight, but we certainly can begin and really begin that work in earnest and make sure that we support the public school system and make sure that the public school system officials know that we are here to do everything we can to assist them with what they are ultimately responsible for, which is educating our children. But they can't do that alone. They need the support of the total community, and we're here to do just that.
There'll be measures of input. What are we putting into it to move the needle? But then in the end, it's, what is our average household income rising? Is our graduation rate improving?
Right.
What's our educational attainment rate? I mean, those are things that maybe we won't see an immediate movement in, but if we're putting the right effort into it, then we should be able to see in a few years some other effort.
Right.
And I think that's where you come back to citizen engagement too. Are the things we're doing, we'll check back we're going to have public forums. We're going to check back and say, all right, are these things the right things? Do you still agree that these are what we need to be working on? Is it making a difference? And then we'll move forward, and hopefully the bigger goals are being achieved.
And we're not being naive. We understand that there's some tough decisions that have to be made across the board. Accountability is crucial to making this successful. We've got to, as a community, make tough decisions about, are our efforts moving the needle? Do we need, as we say, fail fast if you're
Yes.
gonna fail? Mm-hmm. We do need to have a process in place to genuinely evaluate how we're expending these community resources. That's gonna require some very direct, honest conversation and dialogue with the various partners, and the expectations are high.
Most plans that involve substantial and meaningful change take time. How do you ensure that One Macon doesn't fall apart or that people don't lose interest?
Strong arm tactics. Nobody can leave the circle. I mean, really,
Yeah.
it's a commitment and making sure that we're discussing the progress with the group, and that there's an honest feedback and saying that if they feel like it's not a good use of their time, they need to speak up. They can't just opt out. I think everybody signed on for at least 2 more years of being of sitting around that table and talking, and I think it's just got to be a commitment, and then it's a commitment for us to keep everybody coming and engaged.
And it goes back to your first question, engagement. If we get that right and everybody's engaged, then everybody self-selects in and they keep working at it, and it moves forward. Success will make a big difference.
Yeah.
If we get some wins on the front end and everybody's engaged in that win and they feel good about it, that garners more support and makes people want to keep moving and stay involved. If we falter, we need to call that out, say that it was a fast fail, and recognize the lessons from it, call that a win, and move forward. But above all, we've got to keep everybody engaged, because with their engagement will come ultimate success.
What would be the sense of place that, I guess
A full downtown without empty storefronts. Neighborhoods that didn't have trash in the medians and on the corners. Dilapidated houses that weren't boarded up crack houses, but had either been knocked over and redeveloped or put back together and had people in them.
Festivals, community events around the city, and people enjoying their neighbors and enjoying the public spaces that we have available, and that taking care of those public spaces.
For me, when we get that one right, Linda, it's like Mercer beating Duke all 12 months of the year, when you can have people feeling good about this being home, and very proud that we're doing this together and it's working, and we're enjoying each other's company, and happy to be here, not feeling trapped or just, stymied.
That people think there's a lot to do in Macon. That there's the old teenage trap of, I don't have anything to do.
Yeah,
Nobody's.
right.
I mean, that is already not the case.
Yeah.
But so that everybody has a niche and has their activity and their enjoyment that Macon offers that for them.
Yeah, if everybody else feels like there's as much to do as the three of us
That's
feel like there is to do.
Yeah.